Bro.
You're not shitting yourself. Who? You. Don't say it's the tacos, because that was way long ago. It's just you. Just you being you. On do I watch the stream or do I watch off the stream?
It don't matter.
Let's get him some viewers. Come on. Are you live right now? Yeah. So don't say something obnoxious. Don't say anything obnoxious. I don't think you can hear, but still.
Bro. You almost got him banned. Alright, you're winning.
Coach. I'm in there thingy. Who y'all got winning? Who wins the first set? Who wins the second set?
Hopefully Sharks.
I want Hawks to win. Fuck Sharks. I want Jakes to go in the finals. Jake slash Brew. Big Brown Cohen massively commentate.
Massively.
Massively? I don't know.
But where's the pair?
Look in the look at it.
I see statue.
The bear.
Is he in the game?
Shadow kills killer.
Oh, he's
Jake's giving it to Denji. Denji dying. Or Jake's dying, not Jake. Denji. Kibo versus Entro. Or Kibo gives it to Entro. Entro goes for Bara. Gives to Evan to try and chain. Fails the chain. Kibo versus Bara now. Kibo gives Bara a 3. Kibo grabs. Gives it back to Bara. Bara dies. Denji versus 07. Denji gives 07 a... Ooh. Denji, can he give it back? Gives it back somehow. Bob versus Shadow. Bob grabbing the 3, gives him back to Shadow. Shadow gives it back down somehow. What the fuck? Hawks win the first point of the game.
The nose.
Bara going for Shadow in the corner. But Bob grabs it to give it to Shadow though. Bob has timing on Shadow. Gives him a 2. He might give it back. Fails. Denji versus Bob now. Denji grabs the 5. Bob fails to grab the 2 though. Dies. Kibo giving it to Killer. Or that was 07, my bad. Jake's going for intro cynical. Jake's is 100% gonna die here. He does. Easy prediction by Jake's. Denji versus 07. Denji has timing on 07, gives it back to 07. 07 dies. Killer versus Evan. Killer fails to give it to Evan. Bara in a 2v or 1v4 now against Denji. Fails to grab on Denji. Denji gives it to Bara. Bara dies. Hawks get 2 points now. Bara versus Denji. Bara fails to give it back to Denji. Jakes versus Denji now. Jakes holds on Denji. Denji grabs. Jakes dies. Put the kills on. Jake's has 0 kills right now when we're in the 3rd round. Killer versus Denji. Killer holds on Denji. Can he give it back? He fails. Killer dies to Denji. Denji versus 07 now. 07 holds on Denji. Denji gives it back though. Bob versus Shadow. Denji interfering.
That's my student.
Denji holding a little. Holds and gives to Bob. Bob fails to give it now. 3 points for Hawks. What are y'all laughing at?
That's my student. That's that X factor right there.
Denji is the student.
Denji versus Killer.
There it is.
Looks like Denji's gonna grab. Denji has timing. Vera interferes, gives it to Killer.
There it is, man. I'm telling you, bro. That's me. My student, bro.
Denji versus Vera. Vera runs. Denji fails to give it. Kibo spawns with the bomb. Jakes interferes, gives it to Evan. Giving it to his own teammate Bob. Shadow versus Bob now. Bob, what is he doing? Jake's trying to chain, but Bob, what the fuck is Bob doing? Now 07 versus Evan. Evan trying to give it to the wall, fails. Evan guesses, dies. 07 versus Kibo. Kibo killing 07. Oh fuck, I gotta log into chat. Log in. Jake's dying to Shadow. Nick going for Barra. Barra has timing, gives it to Nick, but Kibo saves him. Now we got Barra and Nick. Shadow. Okay. Barra versus Shadow. Shadow doesn't grab and dies. We're gonna do a prediction. Start prediction. Who wins game 1?
Hawk Shark.
Who wins game 1? Hawks or Sharks? Sharks versus Hawks. And we're gonna do 15-minute prediction. Got it. Barra dies to Denji. Y'all can do the prediction now. Evan holding on Killer. Killer gives it back to Evan. Evan dies. Oh, 7 holding on Nick. Nick dies. What does this go up to? 7. First to 7 unless it's overtime. Shadow gives it to his own teammate Kibo. Kibo dies.
Shadow's really raining on.
Shadow versus 07. Denji versus Bob. Bob fails to give it to Denji. Denji kills Bob. 07 versus Denji now. Denji in a 2v1 against 07 and Killer. Can he give it back? He does. What the fuck? Also, I have to update the score. I forgot. Denji holding on Killer. Killer and Denji in a 1v1 now. Denji holding on Killer. Killer has timing though. Can he give it back? He does. Who won the last round? It was Barra. Okay, so it's 3-2.
Shadow's bringing him down right now. Genji has 13 KOs. Telling me he's the X Factor.
Jake still has 0. And then we're in round 6. Denji kills Killer. Oh, 07 dying to Evan. What do you mean, how is it 3-2? It's round 6 right now. There's 5 rounds previously. Not, it's round 6 right now, which means 5 rounds have been done. 3 plus 2 is 5. Denji gives it to Evan. Evan sacrifices. Shadow versus Bob. Shadow dies to Bob. 3v2 now. Hawks have the favor. Bob versus Denji. Denji grabs on Bob. Denji kills Bob. Brings it down to a 1v3. Barra in a 1v3 now. Entro kills Barra. 4-2. Jake still has 0 kills. And we're going into round 7. Barra killing Kibo sacrificing for Denji. Jake's holding on Denji. Denji dies. Jake gets his first actual kill. Bob versus Entro. Bob has timing on Entro. Can he give it back? He does. Grapples. Jake's giving it to his own teammate to give it. Evan dying to Bob. Shadow in a 1v5. Shadow has timing on Bob. Can he give it back? He fails. 4-3. Jake's going for Shadow. Jake's always going for the worst player first. Shadow has timing though on Jake's. Fails to give it though. Jake's gets his second kill of the match. Jake's stomping. Entro versus 07 in the corner. 07 doesn't have time. Entro dies from that though, from the chain. There was 4 of them and 07, or Entro dies. Jake's going for Denji, holding on Denji. Denji fails to give it back. Jake's gets 3 kills now. Evan versus 07. Evan has timing on 07. 07 dies. Kibo and Evan in a 2v4. Evan holding on Barra. Barra dies. Jake's going for Evan now. 2v3. Jake's holds. Kills Evan. What the fuck? That was a great hold by Jake's. Now Kibo's in a 1v3. Jake's dies to Kibo. 2v1 now. Kibo versus Bob. Kibo holding. Fails. 4-4.
Did you find out where you want to sit?
07 versus Jordan. Jordan giving it to 07. What is 07 doing? Bob versus Entro. Jake interfering a little. Bob giving it to Shadow. Bob grabbing from Shadow. Giving it back to Shadow. Shadow dies. Killer gives it to Bob. Bob holding on to Entro. Gives it to Entro. Bob grabbing a 4. Switching up to Jordan. Gives it to Jake's. Jake should have chained that. Jake's IQ was so low. Denji versus Bob now. Denji holding on, Jordan interferes and dies. Bob versus Denji. Bob fails to grab. Bob dies to Denji. Denji holding. Barra gives it to Denji. Denji dies. 2v2 now. Entro versus Barra. Entro grabs. Gives it back to Barra. 2v1 now. Killer in a 2v1. Can Killer clutch. Entro holding way too wide. Kibo sacrificing. 1v1 now. Killer versus Entro. This is for the lead for Sharks. Killer giving it to Entro. Entro dies.
Wow.
Sharks get their first lead now. 07 overholding way too much.
Hold on, J-Rip. J-Rip.
Jake's giving it to the wall through Denji. Through the wall to Denji. Shadow gives it to Jake's. Jake's dying. Jake's with 5 kills in the first game right now. Killer grabbing. Jordan grabbing. Can Jordan kill Killer? Killer gets stuck on the wall. Entro versus Barra now. Entro fails to grab. Barra's gonna kill him. Jordan sacrifices though. Bob fails to give it to Shadow. Barra in a 1v3 now.
I've never watched anime before.
Shadow overholding way too much. Brings it down to a 2v1. Kibo gives it to Barra. Barra changes it to Entro. They're doubling. Kibo grabs it on accident. And changes it to Entro. Barra in a 1v1 now.
What does he look like? You?
Barra fails to grab. Kibo gives. Barra dies. 5-5.
No choice here, bro. So if I go search up Goblin anime right now, it's gonna look like me.
What is happening?
Let me see the image. No, wait.
Jakes gets a penalty and gets sat out.
Penalty. He's so bad.
07 versus Evan. Evan dies. Bob versus Nick. Giving it to Barra. Barra kills Nick. 3v4 now. Shadow giving it to Barra. Barra dies. Bob holding on Denji. Denji has timing though. Can he give it back? He fails. Bob kills Denji. Shadow versus Killer now in the middle. Killer tries to give it to, chains it to Bob. Shadow has timing on Bob. Shadow fails to give it back though. 07 versus Kibo now. Kibo in a 1v3. I just realized that. Kibo has timing on 07. Gives it to 07. 07 dies. 1v2 now. Bob versus Kibo. Kibo fails to grab. Kibo dies. 6 to 5.
I want Awesome when they said it goes into OT. Cause this is a good ass match. He was not performing well. Yeah, cause he's the one at the end. He's the one that's clutching. That's what all that matters for him.
07 and Barra interfere and kill Kibo. Shadow versus 07. 07 giving it to Shadow. Shadow dying. Barra going for intro. Looks like Barra has timing on intro, but he holds and fails to give it to. Oh my god! Barra, you're brain dead. Evan holding on Bob. Bob has timing though. Gives it back to Evan. Evan dies. 3v2 now. Intro versus 07 in the corner. Grab that. Never mind. Fails to grab. Intro gets stuck. 1v3 now. Denji in a 1v3. Denji needs to win this to go into overtime. Takes out Bob. 1v3 for overtime. Gives it to 07. Gonna chain it to Killer though. Never mind. Killer and Denji now in a 1v1.
Did he clutch like me? Did he have it in his jeans?
Denji has timing on Killer, it looks like. Denji clutch. Overtime.
Where's the jeans at? Where's the clutch jean at?
Shadow giving it to Bara.
Oh my gosh.
6-6.
Dude, Denji has 22 KO. I told you he was the X Factor. What am I saying, bro? I know my time off.
Denji versus Bob. Denji dies to Bob. Shadow going for Bara. Bara giving it to Bob through the wall, giving it to Shadow, but fails. Jake's giving it to Shadow. Jake's gonna die to Shadow, yep. Jake's dies to Shadow.
But he has 4 KOs.
He's 5. 07 versus Entro.
Probably not today.
07 fails to grab. Oh, he does grab. Can he give it back? He does. Kills Entro. Going for Kibo now. Evan interfering. Doubling. 07 holding on Evan. Gives it to Evan. Evan dies. Killer versus... Or I mean 07 versus Kibo now. Looks like 07 has time... Or Kibo has timing actually. Gives it back. 2v2 now. Giving it to Kibo. Kibo has timing. Gives it to Bara. Killer in a 1v2 now.
Get in there. Foul. Now.
Killer needs to win this.
It's over. It's over.
Shadow giving it to Killer. Killer. Kill Shadow, yeah. Kibo and Killer now.
Yeah, he got it.
Killer holding. Killer dies. Scores 7-6. Hawks need one more point to win.
This has gotta be match of the year, bro. Cause we're just gonna fucking blow Ghost to the window. Bro, dude, bro, I look here, bro. You have a fish on there, bro. Look at the hole on shit.
Jake's trying to guess on Denji.
Are you awesome?
Evan holding on Killer. Killer has timing on Evan. Evan dies. Shadow versus Bara now. Bara grabs. Shadow grabs. Shadow dies to Bara.
Are you awesome?
Bob holding on Entro. Bob looks like he has timing, but over doesn't grab. Entro dies.
Tuesday? Oh, that's
3v3 now. Entro versus Bara. Kills Denji. That might have messed up the game right there. This round. Kibo, where is Kibo going? Going all the way for Bara. Entro in a 1v3 now. Entro needs to win this to end the game here. Giving it to Bara to chain. Fails. Entro still in it. Going for 07. Gives it to 07. Fails to grab on 07. 07 gets stuck. Entro needs to win this to finish the game for a 1v3. Grabs on Killer. Gives the Killer. Entro grabbing. Gives it to Killer. Hawks win set 1.
I told you.
8-6.
Where my money? Where my USD?
8-6. Hawks win set 1. No, the prediction is for who wins the game. Like the who, like not the set.
They want NA because they want Killer to do everything.
I know.
And I say, I guess that's smart. I mean, but that's kind of stupid at the end of the day because, you know, their top 3 players are both EU.
All right, we're restarting.
It's a little risky, but it's a good idea because literally Hawks has no NA players. Yo, do you ever? Do you listen to Yeat's new album? Yes, sir. What's your favorite song over there?
Username? Why do you want my username? What?
You just had it on. Didn't he release a deluxe? Let me see. He said he's gonna release a deluxe the same day. Let me see.
Okay, Sharks are in first. What's up, Mikey?
Oh yeah, he released a P2. Oh wait,
It's Eve, man. It's Eve. It's Eve.
between it, Mister. In between it.
How is it EU?
Oh, Drake. Drake is on it.
Put that on.
They put Drake on it.
No,
Yes.
no,
Yeet and Drake. Let's go.
Again.
Kobe Yeet and Drake. Yes.
I'm counting up money for fun.
Yeet
And
and
I'm
Drake.
purchasing a bond.
You said you just heard us on the stream. Oh, you're in call? Yeah, see, that's the problem. You lock in when you're not in call.
They need comps, but not comps.
Oh, yeah, it's Hiller server.
No, it's EU.
Wait, they wanted EU?
No,
How did they-
they're resetting it again.
Are you the ref and the stream?
No, one more time, it's a ref.
Oh, yeah, it's over. It might be over. It's gonna be
They
two.
gave Jake's a penalty already. He's on bullshit. One more time, he's on bullshit.
Shout out to my boy J Burl. Shout out to J Burl, my goat of Time Bomb. Better than Killer and Greg.
Blaze.
Mr. Snorlax here.
Blaze.
Best player I know.
Dude, I want to listen to Drake's song. I want to listen to Drake. I want to listen to Drake one with Kobe. So when Kobe's on stream, I can listen to it with the speaker. That's crazy. So Drake is a feature now. Yes, Drake is a feature.
Shout out to Atoka.
Bro, shout out yourself.
Is there a clone or something?
Yo, Aiden, did you get Fozy banned?
You just got banned.
Fozy just said Ozzy's amazing at getting accounts unbanned. Oh, he's gonna DM you.
No, I mean like
No, Fozy's account just got banned and he's gonna DM you to get it unbanned.
He said that's because he said I hate all the.
it didn't get permabanned. So
No, he said 20-year-old funky, shut your corny blank up, dumb new gen, get off my OG map. That's what he said and got banned for.
yeah, he just has to wait to be honest, because sometimes if you appeal,
Alright, Killer's in first. We see it.
you appeal and then they actually really look at it, you could get permabanned.
Just bro.
Bro,
he
what?
has no
What?
filter.
When you appeal, they don't even look at it really. Alright, is it NA now? It's NA.
Oh, what server is it? Dallas?
I'm about to look. I can't wait. Wait. Gotta wait for this to go. There we go. It's LA.
Oh,
It might be over.
it's over. LA is
Third
terrible
set,
for
third
EU.
set.
LA is so bad for EU. Because it's literally on the opposite side of the world. Man, I'm listening to Drake. I can't wait. I'm listening to it right
Is
now.
Aiden the same guy as Ozzy? Yes, Aiden is Ozzy.
Nope, never mind. I'm not listening to it. It's 4 minutes.
Don't listen to it without me.
I know we're gonna wait. As we speak.
Bro, they shut down again? Bro, I could low-key join first and get Dallas. Should I? Yeah, I'm joining first. I'm gonna get Dallas. I'm getting Dallas. Because they won a Dallas server.
Yeah, they won Dallas anyway.
What the fuck?
Who's going first?
How is it EU?
Hey, is Omicron shutting down the server?
Bro, that wasn't me. It's EU. It's EU. Why are they blaming me if it's EU?
Of course, it's always Felper, bro.
It's always Token, man. It's always Token.
Bro,
Always a Kobe, man. The Kobe.
How was it me? How was it me if it's EU?
It's a glitch.
Bro, how am I making it EU? Oh yeah, I was gonna host your guys' game, but I can't because you guys are at my house.
Oh,
I was gonna ref your guys' game.
did Spy say so?
Yeah, Spy said I can't. Because of
Wait, I
biasing.
thought Joseph was reffing.
No, he can't. He's sick.
So who's ref?
Spy's refing.
Fuck.
Spy's refing your game.
No. We could go in. We'll just be all wearing the Gru nose.
Nah, it's too late. You already bought it.
He's gonna give us a penalty for that.
Yeah.
Gru.
You might as well.
The Gru man. What's up, Serene? Gru. What are they saying?
They're saying, is that Greg? It's still LA.
Gru.
Bro, what? No way Jake's just said I joined first. Jake said Toka is joining first. I'm telling Spy. Look at this fucking...
Look at that dumbass nut man. A wall nut. What time? When are you flying now? When are you flying now? Yeah. Oh yeah. Is it in the morning? You just skipped the school? That's it. Yeah, you got a week off. I don't know how, but it must be one of those things like every once in a while, like every month, like there's 1 week off of school for like mental health or something like that. No, they legitimately.
Okay, we're starting set 2. Jake's starting with the bomb first. Going for Shadow. Of course, he goes for Shadow first because Shadow's the worst player. Gives it to Shadow. Jake's now going for the second worst player, Jordan, so he can get his KOs up. Jake's dies. Intro, giving it to Bob. Bob going for Jordan, switching up. 07 versus Intro now. Intro holding on 07. Gives it to 07 from really far. Bob going for Intro now. Intro versus Bob. Bob grabbing. Gives it to Intro. Intro dies. Bob versus Denji now. Denji giving it to Bob. Denji grabbing. Barra interfering. Gives it to Denji. Denji changes it to Bob. Bob dies. Barra versus Denji now. Denji looks like he has timing a little. Gives it through Barra. Through the wall to Barra. Killer chaining it to Denji. Killer dying from that though. Barra versus Denji. Barra giving it to Denji. Kibo dying from that though, from a sacrifice. Denji versus Barra in a 1v1 now. This is for the first point of set 2. But it looks like Barra has timing. Barra holds on Denji. Denji dies. Point 1 goes to Sharks.
This area is just lost right here.
Bro, just swear on Denji, bro. All you need to do is swear on Denji.
Shut your bitch ass up, bro.
All you need to do is
Intro going for Killer.
That's all you need
Giving it to Shadow. Shadow sacrificing.
Show me that.
No. You just want to swear on Denji. Yo, Bob. Go for Nick.
Shadow.
Go for Nick.
Kibo killing 07.
Go for Nick. Go for Jordan first. Because I'm not letting you go for Denji, bro. You're gonna die. Because you don't know how to play, you're gonna die.
Bob
Bro.
dies.
Alright.
No, they literally had to say so
Jakes versus Jordan now. Jakes over holding. Barra giving it. Barra dying. Jakes gives it to Entro. Entro dies. Jakes and Killer in a 2v3 now. Jordan versus Jakes. Jordan gives it to Jakes. Jakes fails to give it back. Barra or Killer in a 2v or 1v3 now. Jordan overholding way too much. Killer versus Kibo now. Killer giving it to Kibo. Kibo dying. Denji versus Killer. Killer dies to Denji. 1-1. Jakes giving it to Denji. Denji killing Jakes. 07 versus Entro. Oh 07 dies to Denji. Barra kills Denji. Jordan going for Barra. Entro hovering a little. Entro grabs, gives it back to Jordan. Kills Barra. Chemistry. Killer in a 1v4 now. Gives it to Shadow. Killer grabs. Fails to give it to Shadow. Killer dies. 2-1.
He's just not me. He's just not me, bro. Everything else but 45.
Jakes giving it to Kibo. Jakes gets it back. Jakes dies. Shadow giving it to Evan, his own teammate. Evan dying. Entro versus Killer now. Gives it to Shadow to try and chain, but dies.
Starting to be more aggressive.
Killer kills Denji. Killer kills Entro.
He said he had to switch up his playstyle instead of trying to play. He has to eat in order to win.
Kibo versus Bob. Bob gets it.
It's playoffs. You can't play fast.
Bob versus Evan now. Evan
Just a bomb.
holds on Bob. Bob has timing. Can he give it back? He fails. Evan kills Bob. Evan versus Killer. Killer gives it to Kibo. Kibo overholding way too much. Gives it to Denji to try and chain, but fails. Evan going all the way for Barra now. Entro hovering. Evan holding. Barra has timing. Gives it to Evan. Evan dies. 07 gives it to Kibo. Killer interfering. Gives it back to Kibo. Kibo versus Killer. Kibo overholds. Kibo dies. Shadow giving it to Jakes. Shadow killing Jakes. Oh, Jakes killing 07.
Another team kill.
Jake for real killer.
He has 4 this time. Killer kills Shadow. Thank you guys for the follow. Jakes going for Entro.
Zero?
Jakes versus Entro. Jakes kills Entro. 2-3.
Do you care to take a shower right now?
Can I?
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Go, hurry up. Make it like 10 minutes. Put my phone in there.
Jakes versus Shadow.
Oh, bet. Let me take the
Evan, though, interferes. Gives it to Denji. Denji giving it to Jakes. Can Jakes give it back? Jakes fails. Jakes dies to Enji.
Hey, close that.
Bob lagging a little. Lag warning.
Sure, bro. I'll be around.
Shadow dying to Killer. 07 versus Evan now. Evan giving it to Killer. Killer has timing. Gives it back to Evan. Evan dies. Denji holding. Gives it. Vera dies. Killer versus Denji. Denji holding on Killer. Killer looks like he has timing. Fails. Ankles. 2v2 now. Kibo and 07. Kibo grabbing from 07. 07 dying. Bob in a 2v1 now. Oh my god, those dogs. Denji dies to Bob. 1v1 now. Kibo dies to Bob. 4-2. Oh my god, bro.
War out there.
Dude. What is happening?
Getting out of that. They're on the trenches.
Yo. Jakes dies to Denji. Bro, what is happening? Denji versus Killer. Killer kills Denji. Bob holding on Entro. Gives it to Entro. Entro dies. Giving it to... What the fuck? Bob versus Evan now. Evan kills Bob. 3v2. Shadow going for Bara. Shadow kills Bara. Evan versus 07 now. 2v2. Evan gives it to 07. 07 dies. Killer in a 2. Ooh, lag. Evan giving him the bomb. Shadow gonna try and chain it. Does. Gives it to Evan though. Shadow dies. Shadow dying to Jakes. Bro, what is happening out there?
I ain't got nothing to do with it.
Jakes fails to give it to Entro. Entro versus 07 now. Entro gives it to 07. 07 dies. Kibo sacrifices for Entro. Bob holding on Entro. Entro giving it to Bob. Bob dies. Bear versus Denji. Bear kills Denji. Killer versus Nick now. Entro. Entro holding on Killer. Killer has timing though. Dies to Nick. Or Killer dies. Kills Nick. 6-2. It's my fucking dogs barking, bro. They're like, they won't shut up. Jordan dies. Jakes dies to Denji. Denji will not be able to kill us. Shadow sacrifices for Denji. Denji tries to hold on Killer. Killer kills Denji. Yo, why haven't they shut up yet? Kibo versus Killer. Killer kills Kibo. Entro versus Bob now. Entro dying. Killer 1. Set 2 goes to Sharks.
Who's gonna get the third set? Who's gonna get it? Who's gonna like?
Bro. Did they just not shut up? Jakes versus Entro. Jake switching up to Shadow, of course. Jake dies by trying to give it to Shadow.
This gotta be you.
Entro versus Killer. Entro dies to Killer. Killer going for Jordan. Gives it to Bob, though. Jordan holding on Bob. Bob dies to Jordan. Shadow going for Killer. Shadow dies to Killer. Kibo versus 07. Kibo dies to 07. Bara versus Denji now. Denji kills Bara. 07 versus Denji. 07 can run this. He does. Jordan chains it though and kills 07. Killer in a 2v1 now. Holding. Giving it to Denji. Jordan ends up with the bomb though. Denji and Killer in a 1v1 now. Looks like Denji might have timing. Fails to give it to Killer. Point 1 goes to Sharks. Killer dies. Bara holding on Denji. Denji dies to Bara. Evan versus Jakes now. Surprised Jakes didn't switch up the shadow. Jakes dying to Evan. Kibo giving it to Evan. Evan going for Bara. Looks like Evan might have timing a little. Dies though. Bob holding on Shadow. Bob looks like he has timing. Gives it to Shadow. Shadow gives it to Nick, who's AFK. Bob versus Kibo. Bob holding on Kibo. Gives it to Kibo. Kibo dies. Shadow dying. Point 2 goes to Sharks, I mean. Not Hawks.
Yo, we need to walk in, bro. We need to walk in. We need to close it out, bro. Killer. Where's Bob at? Bob. We need to walk in, bro.
Knock in.
Why we lost the first bet. It's always Denji, and it's always gonna be Denji. And Denji's the most reliant kid.
Jake's going for Shadow.
Like,
Gets
he's
stuck
so
on the wall,
scared.
though.
He's so scared. Oh my god, this is not when I told me, bro.
Bara giving it to Evan. Evan killing Bara. Evan versus 07 now. Evan holding on 07. Evan dies.
Pisses me off. He's
07
so
killing
scared. Like, this guy
Jordan.
ever.
Kibo versus 07. 07 dies to Kibo.
What's the purpose of him running away from me? Why does he want to?
07 overholding, gives it to Kibo to try and chain, but fails.
Is he scared, bro? That's what I'm confused about. This kid is so scared. Like,
Shadow holding on Killer. Overholds though.
Shadow was the most.
Denji in a 2v1 now.
And he just gets guessing. Like, Shadow was all defense and guessing. Shadow was.
Denji holding on Bob. Bob gives it back to Denji. Point 3 goes to Sharks.
Shadow is never gonna be better than me. Shadow is garbage at this game. Yo, Killer, good shit, bro. Yo, Bob, good shit. Yo, Bob, good shit. Bob is good shit. Yo, bro, Shadow was the worst player of all time. Shadow was so garbage, bro. I'm always
locked in.
Shadow.
We're
I'm
locked.
always
We're already
for
locked
Shadow.
in, Jace. You need to lock in. You need to
I'm
lock in.
always going for Shadow.
Jakes, I'm your
always going
fucking
for Shadow,
daddy.
bro. Like, Shadow is so bad. Like, he just runs away from me. Like, why is he so scared? Like, oh my goodness.
Jakes fails to give it to Shadow. Shadow. Jakes is talking mad stuff and then dies. Oh, 07 gives it to Denji. Denji dies. Bob giving it to Kibo to Evan sacrifices. Oh, 07 dies. Shadow versus Killer. Killer might look like he has timing. Kills Kibo. Bob doing some weird thing. Gives it to Bara. Barra dies. Bob kills Shadow. Point forward goes to Sharks. Jakes dies to Evan. Never mind. Jakes kills Evan. Kibo versus Bob. Kibo giving it to Barra. Barra dies. Kibo. I don't know how Kibo didn't grab that, but okay. Kibo versus 07. Yo, they haven't shut up yet.
Bro,
The
give
dogs.
me it, bro. Oh my god.
Jordan giving it to 07. 07 fails to give it back to
Okay,
Jordan.
bro. This is what you do to Denji. This is what, I'm gonna go for Denji, bro. I'm gonna go for Denji.
This is how you get rid of Denji, guys.
I'm lagging, bro. I'm lagging. Oh my god.
Bob dies. Denji dies. Jordan in 1v1 against Killer now. Bro, how do they bark that long, dude? Like, how did they not get tired of barking? Yo!
Dude, that's a gas, low.
That was a needed win.
Oh, 07 dying from that. Killer, go get the Evan. Evan, look at the... Oh my god. I'm tired. Evan died there. Shadow switching up to Bob. Bob dying to Shadow. Kibo going for Killer now. Kibo grabbing on Killer. Bob has timing though. Fails to give it back. Shadow going for Jakes now. Grab that on Jakes. Nope. Why? What are you doing? Killer versus Kibo now. Killer and grabbing on Kibo. Gives it to Kibo. 2v2 now. Jake's going for Jordan. Jake's backing up. Killer in a 2v1 now. Denji giving it to Killer. 4-2.
Let Killer start. Let Killer start.
Oh, it's because Ives is here. Can you shut the door? Killer, kill Shadow. It's another dog we just got. They just know. Denji dies.
Move. Move, bro. Why are you following me?
Okay, never mind.
Evan dies.
Go. Go, Ives.
Wait, who won that? I didn't even see who won.
This is the like,
Alright, Charles.
like I'm telling you, Bob. Like I'm telling you, like Genji is all about fucking tracking, bro. He has no other category.
Denji dies to killer.
Like, bro, what?
Evan dies. Killer versus Kibo. Kibo switches up though to Bob. Bob dies.
That's such an off guard like kill, bro. That's the most off guard kill of all time. Oh my god.
Kibo has timing on 07. 07 dies.
Alright. This is where to go. Bro, why am I being targeted?
Shadow dies to Jakes. Shadow dying.
Move. I so game. Bro, Mirror, can you like stop?
Jordan
I so
dies.
game.
6-2.
I so game.
Jake, better than our VC, bro.
I so game. 7
15
6 2
2
6.
shit.
I so the game.
I had to mute Jakes, bro. He was just yapping. Killer versus Kibo. Jake dies from that though.
Stick, that angled Kibo. What are you doing, bro? I angled him.
Come on, take Kibo.
Evan dies from a sacrifice. Jakes versus 07 now. 07 gives it to or not Jakes. Oh, Denji versus 07. Denji dies to 07. Shadow dying to killer. That might be game. Kibo on a 1v4 now. Oh, Bob dies. If Kibo can clutch. They stay in. Kibo needs to win. Oh, he overholds. Good game. Sharks win game 1. Well, rip the predictions. Sharks win.